Most closers think hitting $20,000 a month consistently comes down to better objection handling, smoother tonality, or a perfect closing script. That's not it. I'm Liam Shaw. I've been in sales for the last 7 years, and I've consistently closed between $20,000 to $50,000 a month remotely. And here's what I figured out. I don't win calls by submitting someone at the end. I win by controlling the middle of the conversation. The closers, we all know the type. They hit $20,000 once. They either got lucky with a hot offer or really good timing. But the closers who hit $20,000 a month consistently or more, they have a system. So in this video, I'm breaking down the exact framework I use and that I teach my students to consistently close high-ticket deals. I used it earlier today to close a $10,000 offer. This is the framework that's responsible for my 20K months. Let's break it down. So let's start with the core philosophy behind this framework. See, most people, they approach sales like it's boxing match, right? They think about throwing punches, having better objection handling, maybe being a pushy, more hard closes, pushing urgency on, or having more external pressure. See, I approach sales a lot more like it's jiu-jitsu. I love jiu-jitsu. It's not just about throwing punches, but it's about a pressure. It's about applying patience. It's about allowing yourself to stack positions. Because in jiu-jitsu, you don't rush for a submission, right? You work for positional dominance. And then when the position is right, the tap just happens naturally. In sales, it works the exact same way. So if you've ever felt like you're forcing a close, that's usually a signal that you skip some positions earlier in the call. Or if you find yourself repeating the gap again later to try and get them rebought into, the difference of where they are now and where they want to be, that's usually because your discovery was rushed. And the tap, it should happen because the position was built properly, not because you forced it. And the framework I follow, it's very simple, right? There's 4 sections to it. In those 4 sections, we have the intro, you have discovery, we have pitch, and we have close. But here's the important rule that most closers violate. No looping, no stacking sections, no backtracking. If something wasn't handled properly, or you're not getting a good answer to your question, you reopen the question. You stay on that section. You do not move forward because you don't just want to stack new information on top of where you're at and just hope it works, right? A lot of people, they kind of go through a process and be like, oh, well, I didn't really get the answer, but I'm just going to continue going forward and hope that it works. It's not going to happen. The golden rule behind this whole system that I'm going to teach you today, very simple. If clarity isn't there, I don't want you to advance your position. Because what's the point of advancing if you don't have a solid spot? All that's going to happen, it's like you're in mount, right? And you're going for a triangle, right? You're going for a triangle, top position triangle, and it doesn't end up going because you try to throw your leg over way too quickly and they buck you over the top, right? Or you try to just randomly lay down to go for an arm bar and they just buck you off and quickly escape. If you don't have proper control, good positioning, good pressure, before you go for the sub, it's not going to close. Now, let's jump into it. So the first section is the intro. I call this the slap and bump, right? Just like in jiu-jitsu, you go slap, bump. And if you've ever watched Brazilian jiu-jitsu, before a roll starts, both people, they slap hands and they bump fists. And that's what the introduction is. You're not trying to win yet. You're not trying to sell this person. You're just setting the conditions for the right fight. The purpose of the intro is frame control without resistance popping up. And really, we want 3 things to happen here. First, we want to create safety. We want leadership and we want permission. The language I typically use is something like this. Hey, so here's how I'd like to run the call. I'm going to ask you a few questions just to understand your situation, man. And if it makes sense, I'm going to walk you through what I'd recommend. But look, if at any point it doesn't feel right or aligned, we're just going to call it out. Sound fair? Beautiful. Now, what that does psychologically is really important. It removes pressure. I'm giving them an exit door before we even start. It also positions me as the guide. And it just gets them to agree to the structure of the call. And if you skip this step, discovery, it can start to feel invasive, right? You can have a prospect where they start to resist your questions. And you've lost frame control before the call even starts, which is just setting yourself up for failure. We don't want to do that. Now, Second section. This is where most deals are actually won. Not at the close, discovery. And discovery, it isn't just asking questions, okay? It's about 5 very specific positions that we need to hit. And they happen once and in order, all right? So let's go through these. The first is the current situation. So the first thing that you're doing is you're understanding where they actually are. You're getting concrete. You're slowing them down. Questions like, walk me through. What does your day look like right now? How long have you been doing this? What don't you like about it? How has this been showing up? This stage is basically how I think, like feeling out the mat, right? You're just understanding their reality. And if you do a really good current situation, what it does is actually gives you a better leverage to have a deeper and more impactful problem section, which we're going to get into in a moment. But most closers, they mess this up because they hear one problem and they immediately try to create urgency. That's not what we're doing here, okay? The current situation, you're just trying to understand where they are. That's it. That's all you're trying to do. You're trying to understand where this person actually is. Now, that leads us into the problem. This is where dissatisfaction starts to surface. Questions like, well, how long has that been going on for? What have you tried to fix it? Okay, is this affecting any other areas of your life? And here's the critical rule. Don't rescue them. Most reps, they hear pain and immediately jump in with like, oh, that's exactly what we can solve. But that's a huge mistake. We want to let them sit in it. We want to stay curious, okay? You got to ask questions. You ask questions like, well, how did you end up here? What made you start looking for a solution now, though? And what you're doing by asking those kind of questions is you're letting the pressure build naturally. Not aggressively, naturally. It's like when we're continuously pushing our position. You ever been passing someone's guard, okay? I'm doing a body lock pass. I got them pinned to the mat. They can't move. I don't just jump up or try to randomly draw into them. I'm slowly but surely climbing up their body, applying even pressure as I climb. It's a controlled pressure. That's what we're looking for in this section. And when you stay here long enough, the dissatisfaction, it actually lives in the conversation. They start to finally feel the weight of their inaction. And if you rush this, you are going to pay for it later. Man, I cannot tell you the amount of times where I've been on a sales call in my early days and I never got a true pain. I never got a true problem. And I was like, no, it'll be fine. Like, this person's just super goal orientated. But what I started to realize is if they don't feel the weight of their situation, if they don't understand where they're at and confront it, they're never going to actually make a change. Probably lost, let's call it tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in my early days from not understanding this concept. So please do it. I don't want you to pay for it later. The next piece, though, we need to zoom out, right? Now we're showing them that this isn't a one-off problem. It's a pattern. Questions like, how long have you been dealing with this? What have you actually tried before to get this fixed? What usually happens when you try to solve this, like in the past? And they give you some good answers. They give you context. We're getting timeline. But then we zoom out even further and we say, well, how's this like affecting your family? Or what else in your life does this actually impact? And what happens here is so powerful. They start realizing, wait, I've actually been stuck in this loop for a while. They have that aha moment. And that realization, it hits very differently when they say it themselves and we didn't say it for them. Now, again, as I said earlier, if we have a good current situation and we take this problem section, we ask questions with context, because we already have it, we now get a better answer that hits harder. So that's why we do these in order. Now, the fourth part. All right. Future vision. Guys, we're busting through this. This is fun. Now we flip the lens forward. We ask them what they actually want. Questions like, if this was working the way you wanted, what would be different? What would that actually look like for you, though? What's the motivation behind that? Most people, they're going to say vague things like, oh, I just want, to have more money or maybe some more freedom or even, I just want to have a bit of a better life, I guess. If you're getting those kind of answers, that's okay, but we need to dig deeper. All right. Those are not good enough answers. What we need to figure out is what does freedom actually look like to them? What does freedom feel like? What do they want the freedom to do? Like, freedom to do what? Why does that matter? I want to be very clear. We're not trying to sell them some dream, okay? We're not trying to fabricate a dream for them. That's not it. We're helping them articulate it clearly themselves. Most people, they've never put enough thought and energy into what they actually want until they've gotten on a sales call with you. Your job is to put those jumbled up thoughts, make it crystal clear so they can feel it. We all know if we can feel our goals, we can visualize it, shut our eyes and actually imagine it, we're so much more likely to get and actually hit it. So that's what we're trying to do with our prospects. It's going to make them way more effective. They're going to get better results and you're going to get more closes. So let's do it. Now, part 5 of discovery, gap confirmation. This is where everything kind of comes together. It's where we reflect the contrast between where they are and where they want to be. And we let them acknowledge the gap. I ask something simple like this once they've acknowledged it. Well, if everything makes sense today, when are you wanting to start taking action? But here's the key. If they don't acknowledge the gap, I don't pitch. I reopen discovery. If they do acknowledge it, then I transition pretty simple. Look, well, based on what you've told me, I think you're exactly the kind of person that I can help. Let me walk you through what that would look like. Would that be helpful? But if they do acknowledge it, the transition is super simple. I usually go with like, well, look, man, based on everything that you've told me so far, I know we could actually help. Let me walk you through what that would look like. Would that be helpful? And I make it a question. I invite them to say, yeah, that would be helpful. So they're bought into listening when we go into the next section, which is the pitch. Now, if discovery was done properly, the pitch becomes super easy. It should feel obvious, not persuasive. And your pitch, it should be calm, it should be simple, and tied directly to what they just fucking told you, right? I structure mine in 3 pillars because it keeps it easy. First one is foundation. This is transitioning you from where they are to where they want to be. Second is coaching. This is the reps, the feedback that builds confidence. The third is real opportunities. Actually applying it to the real world, actually landing a role that pays you for your time, not just another free labor gig. And when discovery is done right, you'll literally hear your prospects say, everything you're saying, it just makes sense. And that's not just because the pitch was magical, it's because discovery created the conditions for it to actually land. If you didn't do a good job in your discovery, your pitch isn't going to land as well because you don't know how to customize it to them. We need to customize our pitch so it sounds like it's specific for them. Not just another generic thing that we've said 1,000 fucking times. Now, section 4, the close. Closing is where most closers mess everything up. They either cave under pressure or they start shoving people and have a high level of pushiness, right? Ever heard of commission breath? It's that stuff. And I don't do either because neither one is actually that great. But closing, it isn't pushing someone. It's inviting a decision. All I'm looking to do, invite a decision. And if objections come up, naturally, they're going to happen. Someone says, I need to think about it. Someone says, I got to go talk to my wife. Someone says the timing isn't right, or I need to wait, or I'm not ready yet. Most reps, they either give up in this moment or they start pushing really hard. What I like to do is I like to hold position. It's like when I'm on mount and the person underneath starts bucking trying to get me off. The last thing I want to do is let go and just let them jump off. And the other thing I don't want to do is hold on super tight because all they're going to do is do a little bit of a kick and I'm going to be off. Don't want to do that. So, for example, if someone says to me, hey, look, Liam, everything seems really good. I just need to wait until things, settle down a bit. I'm going to say something like this. Okay, let's say we, wait a month. Things are a bit more settled for you, but you're still in the same position you're in now. I guess, what actually changed? Then I stay quiet. Because what usually surfaces is the real objection, which, let's be honest, is going to be fear. Now, if it isn't fear, because what usually surfaces next is the real objection, the fear, uncertainty, self-doubt. And once that is out in the open, we can actually talk about it. That's what holding the position actually looks like. You're not forcing anything, but you're also not letting them create a fake world where waiting around magically fixes their problem. The other one is if someone says, Wow, Liam, this all sounds great. It's just a whole lot of money. I like to do what I call pacing the first objection. Very simply, I say, hey, no worries, man. Money aside, do you feel like what we've gone over, like it can actually get you there? Yeah, I feel like it can. Why though? Like, why do you feel like it could? Oh, it just like, I really like the accountability and the structure. Yeah, but like, what about for you personally? Like, why really do this? And I get them to double tie down. That's what this is called, a double tie down. Oh, just because like you said, man, I really want to have like that freedom. I really want to be able to be present for my family. Okay, man, well, I get that. Is it a case where like, it's not really like if you want to do this from how I'm hearing you, it's more how can I actually make this work? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Cool, man. Well, look, I never want money to be the reason someone can't get started with this. I guess what we could do is just look at your situation just to see if we could even help, right? Is the 10,000 just something you don't have access to, or what's the situation? Just to see if I can help. See how this kind of language is helping the prospect open up. That's the framework, and a little bit of sauce at the end, a little bit of sauce, just so, if you're getting into the objections, you want to touch on it. But again, remember you guys, the structure, the framework, plus a little bit extra sauce for you that made it to the end of the video. I want to remind you, we need to do an intro, we need to do a discovery, we have to pitch, and we need to close. And you need to do it in that order. And if you remember one thing from this video, I want you to remember this. Sales isn't boxing, it's jiu-jitsu. It's all about the pressure, it's about having patience, and it's about advancing your position spot over spot. And when the position is right, the tap is going to happen naturally. If you want a systematic approach to closing more deals, check out the link below for the Closing Authority. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.